Good day, my friend. Matthew Parsons, Knoxville real estate expert here, and today we're going to dive into the numbers. So buckle up, here we go. Now, just so you're aware too, we're not dealing with the whole Knoxville market or the whole Knoxville MLS. Part of the reason is because we have so many rural areas that are outlying that those can sometimes skew the numbers. They tend to sell for less. Maybe they have acreage. Maybe they sit on the market longer. So the numbers that we're going to be pulling from for today are Knox, Loudoun, Anderson, and Blount County. These are the markets, or these are the counties that we're going to be using. I didn't use Sevierville because Sevierville actually has two different MLSs, so we're not getting an accurate picture. So this is for Knox, Loudoun, Anderson, Blount, but I think it's a good representative of the Knoxville market as a whole and what you can expect. Okay, so we hear a lot of people talking about what's happening in the Knoxville market, and 9 times out of 10, it's going to be based on their feelings about, hey, here's how I feel the market's going. Hey, I've had deals that have gone for less, or I see where houses are on the market longer than they used to be, so surely the market must be going down. But what we're going to do today is we're going to dive into what are the specific numbers of the Knoxville market and how do those reflect on what is actually happening. In fact, actually, I shouldn't say how does it reflect, because the reality is the numbers tell us what is happening. It's not based on feelings, it's based on the facts and the numbers. There are going to be 3 things that I want you to take away from today. And number one is this, is that the Knoxville housing market is going to be different than other housing markets. All right. So I had a guy on Facebook recently who was a friend of mine who now lives in another area, and he posted, hey, here are the numbers for other metropolitan areas. Okay. And he was like, hey, in Phoenix, I think the number was 18%. Hey, in Austin, I think it was 13%. Again, don't quote me on those numbers, but I know there was an 18% in there. I know there was 13% and 11%. And that was a decrease in the number, in the amount of sales prices, average sales prices from May to December. All right, those were the dips in the numbers between May and December. And so it got me to thinking, what are we seeing a dip in Knoxville? And then number 2, if so, how much are we seeing? So what we're going to do is we're going to dive into what those numbers look like. And so I'm going to share with you my screen here. And what I've got is I'm going to pull up this here. And this is the January 2023 number. Sorry about that. January 2023 number. Maybe we'll change that to that. So what we've got here now, I've highlighted also sold median price. Median is going to be the number that is in the middle of the low and the high. Average does not tend to give us as accurate a reflection of what the housing market is doing. So median is going to be, hey, we took the house that sold for the lowest, so we took the house that sold for the highest, and then we counted to the middle, and it turns out the middle is this, and that tends to be the more accurate number. So the median sales price in January of 2023 was $335,450. Okay? But in order for us to get some context, we need to know what other numbers were. What was the sales price last January? What was the sales price in July? And so what I did is I went back and I looked, and I selected here, see where I've got this on the left here. I went back and I looked at July and January of every year going all the way back to July 2015. Now, before I continue, let me say this. People ask, well, why did you go back to July 2015? The reason I went back to July 2015 has to do with this number right here. This green number here, 6.44. That is the absorption rate. The absorption rate is the amount of inventory that we have in the housing market at any one given time. So in July 2015, we had 6.44 months worth of inventory. So if things kept going at the same pace and we didn't add any new houses, it would take us 6 months to sell out what we have. So 6 is considered a healthy market. Anything above 6, a 7 or an 8, is going to be a buyer's market. Anything below 6, meaning we have less inventory, it's going to be a seller's market. So 2015 was the last time that we saw a healthy market. So that was the number that I went back to, looking at July and January's all the way through. By the way, before we continue, January of 2023, 1.2. 1.2 months of inventory. Okay, so let's talk about what these numbers mean as we're looking at these numbers, okay? So I've got 335,540. And then what I did is I created a column next to it here called percent difference. And so what it is we see that there was a price drop in the median sales price from July 2022, 6 months ago, July 2022 to January 2023, we saw a 2.7% decrease in prices. Those are the facts. So what I want to do now, though, is I want to put that negative 2.77%, or that drop in sales prices of 2.77%. Let's put that within context of what have we traditionally seen from year to year or from season to season in the Knoxville market. All right, and so what we're going to do is we're going to go all the way back to January of 2016. In January 2016, in a healthy market, we saw an almost 11% decrease in prices. The following January, we saw a 7% decrease. The following January, we saw a 5.7% decrease and 1.3% decrease. So we saw these percent decreases. You know, yes, the margins got smaller and smaller and smaller, but we saw a change in price between July and January of the following year, every single year. So when I come to you and I say, hey, guess what? Prices are dropping in the Knoxville market. That's true, but it's important that we have a framework or an idea or put that within context so we can understand, well, is that normal? So let's talk about what we think is going to happen in the coming year. Personally, I believe that we're going to see sales prices increase through July here in the Knoxville market. And the reason there is because of that absorption rate number. We've already established that Knoxville's different. Knoxville is different from other markets. Again, other markets are going to see an 11% decrease from May to December, and they're going to see that, and hey, we're freaking out, the sky's falling, and the National Association of Realtors is saying the same thing, but Knoxville doesn't see that. Number two, we have tons and tons of people who are wanting to move to Knoxville. Knoxville is a destination at this point. People want to move to Knoxville. People want to move to Tennessee for all that it has to offer. Number three, we are still in a seller's market. 1.2 is the amount of inventory that we have in January. 1.2 is the amount of inventory that we have in January. That's nowhere near a level market. That's nowhere near a buyer's market. We are still heavily in a seller's market. And then the last thing is this. We will probably see an easing or a lowering, maybe even, of interest rates in the coming year. So first off, when interest rates went from 3% up to almost 7%, people freaked out. They weren't used to it. We hadn't seen that in 10 years. And so all of a sudden, boom, those interest rates go up. Buyers freaked out and they just put a brakes on everything, put a hold on everything. Number one, they're getting used to that. They're going, hey, you know what? I'm not seeing much improvement in rates at this point. I'm seeing a little bit of improvement, but I'm not seeing a ton. It's not going back down to 3. If I want to buy a house, I should just go buy a house. So first off, buyers are getting used to that. So now that they're getting used to that, we're going to see them coming back out and going, I'm ready to buy. Number two is if we see them decrease even a little bit, then they're going to get really bold. Then more of them are going to come out of the woodwork and go, oh my gosh, it dropped down to, it's in the 5s now. Let's go get it. And so we're going to see an increase in the number of buyers. And when we see an increase in the number of buyers, that means that we're going to see an increase in prices. So there you go. Those are the facts, not the feelings, about what's happening in the Knoxville market. if you want to get down into the nitty gritty about your neighborhood, if you want to get into your area, whether Farragut, Bearden, Sevierville, wherever the case may be, Carnes, Powell, Loudoun, Lenore City, if you want to get specific on these things, give me a call, 865-761-9797, because I'm going to be able to help position you in a good spot to get your house sold for top dollar. Not based on what I feel, but based on what the numbers are telling us. And I'll give you another great example of that here. I'm going to actually scoot back. I'm going to scoot back in here. Check this out. So what I want to show you now is a category called sale to original list price. This is what it originally went on the market at, and then what ratio it's sold at. So if it went on for $100,000 and it sold for $95,000, that's a 95% sold to original list ratio. Now then, if it went on the market at $100,000 and nobody bought it, and then they dropped the price down to $96,000, and then it ended up selling for $95,000, then we still see the same sold to list, original list ratio, but we see a smaller sold to list ratio because it was actually listed at 96 when it sold. So, but the interesting one is the original. It's the original price. That's what we want to know. Now, again, right? Wildness. Back in 2016, we saw a 93%, 95, 94. These are the percentages that we were seeing. One point, July 2021, wow, 101.8%. So you put it on the market, multiple offers, sells for above ask. There you go. That was actually for the whole market, or for KLAB. So what we've got here is we've got 95.7, and that number is pretty drastic between 99 and 95. And part of the reason being is that a lot of realtors are about 6 months behind. When they're pulling numbers to take a look at, hey, how much did houses in this neighborhood, or how much did houses in this area sell for, they're looking at comparables, comps. They're looking at what's sold in the last 6 months. So, hey, the market's been going up. I feel like the market's been going up, so I need to price it a little higher. Hey, the house sold for $400. We're going to put it on the market at $415. Well, guess what? Not only is the market not at $400 anymore, it's definitely not at $415. But that it's not at $400 anymore. We're seeing a 3% decrease. So to get that price, we want to price it down here. So a lot of realtors, a lot of times, they're about 6 months, let's say, behind on where they need to be pricing houses. If you want to get priced correctly in a way that will still create that feeding frenzy, that will still create that top dollar for you, give me a call. I'm 72 sold certified, and I can help make it a reality for you that we sell quickly for top dollar. Because guess what? The two are related. Now then, so just be aware, pricing matters. Pricing is important. So what we're going to do is we are going to get your house priced right. We're going to get it sold quickly because it is priced right. And not only that, but we're going to get top dollar. Instead of sitting on the market and getting you 5% less than what we originally listed it for, we're going to list it at the right spot, get you 10% more. Okay? So give me a call, 865-761-9797. I'm Matthew Parsons, Knoxville real estate expert. Thank you, and God bless.